Hanzo wins. You fucking beauty.
Welcome!
I'm a fan of the Mortal Kombat video games. I remember playing the original arcade version, not when it first came out, but retro establishments have these retro video games, and Mortal Kombat, the original one, the first one is one of them, and I love the game. Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate is my favorite Mortal Kombat game because it has a shit ton of characters. You have the brutalities in there, animalities, babyalities, all this kind of crazy stuff.
Staying alive.
He's gonna hurl.
And it's awesome, and Cabal was my favorite character. I loved his running tornado thing and his running hook, sword, grab, throw thing. It was great. Mortal Kombat 4 I played on the Nintendo 64, and I love the running grapple that they introduced in the game. That was cool. I did play Armageddon, and I enjoyed Armageddon because it had every single character in there. I've played Mortal Kombat 9. I love the story mode in there. I love games that have story modes is my thing. That's why Heavy Rain is my shit.
Jason! Jason!
Now getting back on track, the movie. The first Mortal Kombat movie, I loved it as a kid. I still love it. My favorite fight in there is Johnny Cage versus Scorpion. My second favorite fight in there is Liu Kang versus Reptile. I know some of the mythology of Mortal Kombat. You have Shao Kahn, who is the Emperor of Outworld, and Outworld wants to take over Earthrealm and many other realms that I don't know about. But he cannot do this without first winning 10 Mortal Kombat tournaments in a row. And Mortal Kombat is a martial arts tournament to the death. This is issued by the Elder Gods, who are the overseers of all the realms, I assume. So we have Shang Tsung, who is an evil sorcerer from Outworld, and he is Shao Kahn's right-hand man. We have our Earthrealm heroes, Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya, among other people, and they are led by the protector of Earthrealm named Raiden, who is a thunder god. Outworld has their grand champion, Goro, who is undefeated. And these Earthrealm heroes defeat Goro in the 10th tournament, and now Earthrealm has prevented Outworld from taking over Earthrealm. Shao Kahn is disappointed in Shang Tsung, but then Shang Tsung asks for forgiveness from Shao Kahn, and then so Shao Kahn restores Shang Tsung's youth, and then Shang Tsung fights in the tournament, but then he gets his ass whooped. So then Shao Kahn later on says, okay, fuck this, I'm just going to invade Earth anyway. So then he invades Earth, but then Shao Kahn loses, and then Shinnok comes in, who was an elder god that was locked away for centuries, and then he comes and he wants to take over, and now everybody's just killing everybody, and then another champion named Blaze shows up, and then the Mortal Kombat dragon Umaga shows up, and everybody's just killing everybody, and then there's so much chaos going on that finally, they just rewind time and they start from scratch all over again. That's basically Mortal Kombat in a nutshell.
Yes, but you barely scratched the surface.
I am no longer Bihan. I am Sub-Zero.
Mortal Kombat 2021. The first half, the very beginning, is mwah. It is a great opening sequence. We see Hanzo Asashi, and he's with his family, and they're gonna die. It's cliche, it's predictable. It's like what happened to Magneto in X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh, my babies.
Honestly, this scene is more emotionally impactful than the one in Mortal Kombat 2021.
Sub-Zero shows up, but before he was Sub-Zero, he was Bihan. and he kills Hanzo Asashi's family. He freezes them to death, and Hanzo just goes off and starts murdering fools with his wife's gardening tool. So his get over here move, which is very popular in the video game, as it's presented in this movie, there's a meaning behind it, which I liked.
Bihan!
And then we have Hanzo Asashi versus Bihan. And it's a great fight. I feel every punch. I love the music. There's not a bunch of shaky cam and a bunch of quick cutting. I can see everything that's happening. And it's great. Like when Hanzo got thrown into the tree, I felt that. When Bihan got scratched across his cheek, I felt that. I felt the impact of these fights. And the reason why Bihan and Hanzo Asashi are fighting is because Bihan's part of the Lin Kuei, which is a clan of ninjas, but they don't really illustrate that in this movie. All you know is that there is this guy named Bihan here who kills Hanzo Asashi for the Lin Kuei. And I don't even remember what Hanzo Asashi's clan name was. And I don't even know why these two clans are fighting. They don't explain that in this movie. And then Hanzo, as he's dying, he gets burnt up. He's lit in flames, and he goes to the Netherrealm, which is Mortal Kombat's version of Hell. I wish we had saw more of that. It could have been like some Hellraiser kind of thing, which would have been cool, you know, some gory, grotesque stuff. But I guess I didn't have the budget for that. Hopefully in a sequel, we can see the full depths of the Netherrealm. I was confused why Hanzo was being lit up like that, because that didn't happen to anybody else. That only happened to him. And I'm like, is that a part of his clan? Like, that's what happens to his clan when he dies? It's not explained. But as video game fans, we know what's going on. And then Raiden, who is the protector of Earthrealm, he shows up all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and he rescues Hanzo Asashi's baby because they hid the baby before they got killed. Then we skip ahead centuries later. We meet Cole Young, who is a character created specifically for this movie. He's an MMA fighter, and he gets his ass whooped. Then we meet Jax, who I think is a cool character. I like the actor. There's one moment in particular where I'm confused. I'm saying to myself, during this moment where we see his face, is his face CGI, or is he just that damn pretty? Then we go to Outworld, and Outworld is just a complete wasteland. We see Shang Tsung sitting on his throne out in the middle of nowhere. So then we see Bihan in his suit of armor, and he approaches Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung is like, we have to kill our opposition, so go kill these people, Bihan. And Bihan's like, I'm no longer Bihan, I am Sub-Zero. And it's a badass moment because the visual effects here are mwah. The costume on Sub-Zero is mwah. The costume on Shang Tsung is mwah. I love it. So then Sub-Zero attacks Cole Young. Jax shows up. Visual effects here are mwah. The action is intense. I'm enjoying every single second of it.
Get to Gary, Indiana. Find Sonya Blade. 806 West Washington Boulevard.
Are you sure? We can take him out together.
You want your family on a fucking slab in the morgue? Now get out of here.
Jax and Sub-Zero have a fight, which is another great fight in this movie. I loved it. I love when Jax says, I did 6 tours, motherfucker.
Done 6 tours, motherfucker.
Jax, when he lost his arms, they gave it away in the trailer. I think they should have saved it for the movie, but I understand they needed to get butts and seats in theaters or have people stream this. So they needed to show, hey, this is serious. But they should have saved it for the movie, but it's still a great moment with watching the whole thing in its context. Jax loses his arms. It feels realistic. I fucking felt for Jax. I was like, holy shit. I felt the pain. And when he just, Sub-Zero just tosses his body like he's yesterday's garbage. And then the music kicks in. But then, right after that, once we meet Sonya Blade, I feel like this is when the movie slows down. We meet Kano, who has a lot of great jokes.
You kidnapped me, you tied me up, you threw a knife in my fucking leg on purpose, and then that lizard thing took off half of my face. Lucky for me, you can hardly notice it. You got a pen? You want to write this down? Get fucked.
If it wasn't for Kano, I wouldn't care about most of this. Because once we get to Raiden's temple, the movie tries to explain how people have superpowers. They have the dragon tattoo, which you're either born with through your family bloodline, or you kill someone for it, and then it transfers on to you. And then once you reach Outworld, or once you reach, a certain point, I don't really know, you have to train to get your arcana. And I understand it. It makes sense. I understand why you kind of don't want to give people powers just straight off, right? But I think it would have made more sense if it was like, because I thought we were going to have the tournament in this movie. And it would have made more sense as like, once we get to the tournament, which is held in like Outworld or something, that's when people would start getting powers because they're in a different realm. That would have made more sense to me instead of this whole dragon marking arcana thing. But we witness how everyone gets their arcana. I did love how Kano got his when he was arguing with Kung Lao at the dinner table. That I thought was a very intense moment. But it is kind of sloppy here with the whole training thing. And it's predictable because, Cole, he can't find his arcana. Sonya is not even supposed to be there. And then Raiden sends Cole home. And then this is when the movie starts to fall apart. Because then Shang Tsung is just gathering more henchmen. We have Melina, we have Natara, who's just there to get killed. We have Goro, who's just there to get killed. We have Reiko, who's just there to get killed. We have Cabal, who gets a little bit of backstory, but he's just there to get killed. All these people are there to get killed. The only person who has story here is Sub-Zero, and that's it. Everyone else is just here to get killed.
Useless.
But then, like, the villains, they're just playing around with the heroes, because then there's a moment where Girl's like, now I rip out your spine. And it's like, bro, you could have just ripped out his spine in a second. What the hell are you doing? But if you kill Ko Young, then there's no movie. And then you have the fast Cabal, who jokes with Liu Kang, where he's like, oh, am I moving too fast for you or something like that? And I'm like, dude, you could just easily kill him. They're just playing around, but it's like, you kill Liu Kang, there's no movie. And then Jax, he has these tiny baby arms, and Reiko has this big ass hammer. It's like, bro, your hammer, I feel like you can swing harder than that, and then his arm would like shatter. But he's like hitting him like he's playing around. So it just feels weak. It's like, it's predictable. We know what's gonna happen. They did this in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where our heroes get beat up for a little while, so we feel bad for them, and then by the end they'll be victorious. But then Raiden shows up, as he always does, too fucking late.
Too late, Lord Raiden.
It was only during the middle portion of the movie where Shang Tsung first tried to attack them, where he showed up in the nick of time. But just like the opening scene, and just like the third act, he shows up too fucking late. Shang Tsung kills Kung Lao. And I enjoyed this scene with Shang Tsung. I thought in this moment, Shang Tsung felt intimidating and terrifying. Because when Kung Lao, I kind of liked his character. When he was getting his soul taken out of him, I felt like my soul was leaving my body. Like, I felt for him. And I felt like with Shang Tsung, when I saw him at the beginning, I was like, his costume's cool, but I don't know about this, performance or this version of Shang Tsung. And it wasn't until he took Kung Lao's soul where I was like, this Shang Tsung is fucking scary. But then they kind of ruined the levity of this with all of a sudden Cabal using it as a joke, saying, oh yeah, he's about to get his soul sucked. So they just ruined the moment with Shang Tsung where I felt like he was terrifying for a joke. So then Kung Lao dies, and then they take Cole to the Void, and then Cole gives his inspirational speech to everyone, and Jax has his arms because of magic, and Raiden sends all of his heroes and all of the henchmen to different stages that are also represented in the video game, but it just feels sloppy and rushed. The structure of this story is all over the place by the end, because it's just like, here we go, we're just gonna have these fights that really weren't built up. I'm not emotionally invested in these fights, and I'm not even excited about these fights. Where it does start to become interesting is when Hanzo comes back from the Netherrealm, and he's Scorpion now. I don't know why he's wearing his armor, but he just is. And then he does the get over here move, which was great. I felt a little bit of emotion with that. And then Cole and Scorpion team up on Sub-Zero, and then Scorpion does his fire breath move, and Bihan is burnt to a crisp. Shang Tsung shows up. He's like, yeah, death is another portal. So I feel like, okay, all of these characters who just died are going to come back, so this was all meaningless. I guess since Kano got stabbed in the eye, he's going to come back with his metal plate and his laser eye, and all these characters is going to come back as like alternate versions of themselves, so whatever. But then they ruin Shang Tsung, and Raiden's like, oh, you talk too much, and he just like makes Shang Tsung disappear. And I'm like, you just ruined how intimidating Shang Tsung was. Like, they just diminished his presence. Then they show a tease of Johnny Cage at the end, which makes me a little bit excited. Overall, I think this movie is okay. When it starts, I love it. And then once we meet Sonya Blade, the movie starts to fall apart. And at this point, when we meet Sonya, I love Kano. I enjoy Kung Lao in the movie. I like Jax. I like Sonya. I like the characters. But the story is kind of like, I'm not that interested in it anymore. And then there's no fighting. And then they're learning their arcanas. It's taking forever. And, the henchmen show up and they're just there to die. And I just don't care. I'm not emotionally invested in this, but visually it looks cool. The whole entire movie visually looks great. This is definitely a theater experience because of the music. It's very immersive. But the story is just kind of boring. Once we get to Sonya's house, it just slows down, and Kano is trying to carry this thing, but it's just like, eh. And then once we reach the ending of the movie, where the henchmen are just there to get killed, that's when it just completely falls apart. And it's terrible. It's terrible by the end. And I'm invested because I'm a fan. The way the video game mythology is laid out, this can easily be a movie and a trilogy or a universe. It's easily constructed in the video game universe. You just go on YouTube and watch Mortal Kombat 9 full movie. You'll have your trilogy right there. And it's better than this. And I understand there's so many characters that you can focus on in an hour and a half movie, because that's what this is. It says an hour and 50, but the credits are like 10 minutes. Because like, I was looking at my watch towards the end, like, are we going to get to the tournament? And there's no tournament, which is kind of disappointing to me, but I understand you have to get us used to these characters, build up their stories. But it doesn't do that. There are a lot of things that are confusing in here, even as a fan. And I am interested in a sequel and a trilogy or a universe and where they go from here. It gave me enough, and as a fan, I am invested. It's not terrible. I see potential here. I feel like they should keep the technical team, keep the director, keep the special effects team, keep all the people in the technical scene. But as far as the writing department goes, either hire new writers or have a writer's room or add new people, because I feel the story, even though this is a silly video game movie, I feel the structural nature of the story and its progression, it just falls apart by the end to where like things don't make any sense. It feels rushed. And it's just like, here's nostalgia for the fans. An average person probably wouldn't even understand this. Even as a fan and knowing the mythology, I just don't feel like I was emotionally invested in this thing throughout. It was just kind of boring to me. But I definitely want to see where this goes. I do feel like it has potential. So here are my theories about certain things in this movie. Outworld. I heard a lot of people saying, well, Outworld is just this wasteland, and in the video games, it's like there's buildings, it's heavily populated, and all this kind of stuff. These people are correct. But this is a movie. They're going in a new direction. They're taking things differently. Maybe I'm reaching here, but hear me out. Here's how I feel. When we first see Outworld, it's a desolate wasteland. There's just nothing out there, and we see Shang Tsung sitting in his chair just doing nothing. And here's how I feel. Because in the later scene, we see Shang Tsung and he has dirt all over his face. This is when Melina tells him that Bihan killed another one of Earth's champions. And he has dirt all over his face, and you see people like digging ditches or holes and stuff. And at first I was confused. I was like, why does Shang Tsung have dirt on his face? What I think is happening here is that Outworld is just a desolate wasteland. And it's been like that for centuries. And so the reason why Outworld and Shang Tsung are so desperate to take over Earthrealm that they're willing to cheat is that Earth has resources that Outworld desperately needs. Clearly you can tell because they're not living all lavish. You know, there aren't giant castles and stuff. It's hardly populated, you know. And you see Shang Tsung having dirt all over his face. You know what I'm saying? Royalty doesn't have dirt on their face, you know? He's supposed to be clean, crisp, and polished. You know, so I feel like that's the reason why Outworld is so desperate to take over Earthrealm. Kind of like what Zod wanted to do in Man of Steel, where he wanted to terraform the Earth to create Krypton. Outworld wants to invade Earthrealm so they can merge together, and then Outworld will be heavily populated. They'll have more slaves. They'll have bigger buildings to construct their places and all this kind of stuff. That's why they are so desperate to take over Earthrealm. And then with Bihan turning into Sub-Zero. At first when I saw this, I said, okay, what the hell is he wearing this armor for? And then in the scene where he's like, I'm no longer Bihan, I'm Sub-Zero. I'm like, that's just for the audience so he can say Sub-Zero. But then I thought about it. Maybe I'm reaching, but here's my theory. At the beginning of the movie, he's Bihan. He's not wearing his costume. He's just wearing some robes. He's a part of the Lin Kuei, which is a clan, the Lin Kuei clan. And he's attacking Hanzo Asashi's clan. They're rivals, and I don't know what for. But any clan or any military group, you have rankings, right? You have people who are above other people. And at this point, when we first meet Bihan in the movie, I think he is an apprentice, or he, you know, is just starting out, and he's been hunting Hanzo, you know, and, you know, he has a grandmaster that he has to answer to, but he's just starting off at this point. He's at a very low ranking right now, here at the beginning. And he apparently just got his ice powers, and he's, you know, just starting to use them. And then he kills Hanzo. And then when we see him centuries later, he's still young. I don't know why. But the reason why he's wearing his armor and he says, call me Sub-Zero now, I am Sub-Zero, is because now, after centuries, he is the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei. And he's wearing his uniform, showing respect to his clan. And, you know, as Grand Master, he's like, now I am Sub-Zero, you know, I'm no longer Bihan, which makes sense. You know, it's like, once you become the head leader, you know, you have a nickname. And so that's what I make of this whole Sub-Zero thing and him wearing his uniform.